Hello and welcome to Jasim Al-Azzawi show. Please forgive us. We are late almost 10 minutes. We had some technical problems. But I'm delighted to welcome from Beirut, Dr. Ajaka, Jassem Ajaka, my namesake. And he is a professor of economics at the Lebanese University. Welcome to the show, sir.
The pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me, Mr. Jassem.
Okay. When I think about countries where the political and the military and the social and the security all involved together and wrapped in one, it's almost difficult to untangle them. I can only think of Lebanon. Lebanon is such a complex case, and we're going to go through some of these social and military and economics issues. But let's start with the latest. And the latest is kind of, you call it a threat by the US envoy Tom Barak to Lebanon, saying that Hezbollah, or as you call it in Lebanon, the party must disarm, otherwise Israel will disarm it. How do the Lebanese, how do the government view such a threat and such behavior, which is the least you can say is undiplomatic?
Yeah, we know already that, in fact, this topic has been already, in fact, presented through a proposal by Tom Barak's, a U.S. proposal, which presented, in fact, a detailed disarmament plan and a road map, if you want, that calls for Hezbollah to fully disarm, in fact. And this plan mandates that this disarmament should be, in fact, carried out by the Lebanese armed forces. Which means, in other words, that all the weapons that Hezbollah and other fractions, military fractions, should be under the authority of the Lebanese government, and with a deadline that it's, in fact, 2025. We know that today, in fact, there is no direct threats from the Israeli government. I mean, the Israeli government didn't give us an ultimatum or direct public threats that it will invade, for example, Lebanon if we are not able to disarm Hezbollah. But let me tell you that the consensus between the analysts and the observers, mainly political analysts, that really if Lebanon, the Lebanese government, fails in disarming Hezbollah, we will be in fact facing a high risk of renewed and escalated Israeli military action. The proposal by itself, in fact, says that Israel, in fact, will withdraw from the 5 positions that it currently occupies in the south of Lebanon. But if the disarmament fails, in this case, the main deterrent for a full scale, if you want, of Israeli operation is removed, and observers sees that Israel could expand its occupation even to the Litani or Awali rivers, even to destroy the infrastructure that Hezbollah may have in the south of Lebanon. I think that it's a little bit, we have these, in fact, let's say, fears related to what Tom Barak said, and mainly the last let's say, statement that he done, because he said that in fact there is a failure in applying the agreement that has been done in 2024. So I think that there is, in fact, in some hidden threats related to the to Lebanon at this level.
Well, Dr. Ajaka, Lebanon does not need the United States and does not need Tom Barak to come and threaten it with the consequences of if the Lebanese government disarm or not disarm the party. I mean, the president, Joseph Aoun, as well as Nawaf Salama, the prime minister, they know very well the consequences of confronting Hezbollah, what might happen. There is no need for us to repeat what Naim Qasim said about life will disappear if there is such a confrontation between the Lebanese army and the party. And those two gentlemen, they have been through the woods and through the problems of the civil war. They're not going to risk the integrity and the unity of the country just because Tom Barak comes, strutting along and says, do it or Israel will do it for you. But at the same time, the United States government, forget about Tom Barak now, the United States government is using the stick and the carrot. The stick is disarm, otherwise there will be more sanctions. The carrot is disarm and we will lift the sanctions.
Exactly. In fact, I know that in fact the president of the republic as well as the prime minister wants to avoid any confrontation with Hezbollah, and more specifically military confrontation, because it reminds us a little bit the civil war in the 70s of the last century. But I do believe also that the weight of the threat of sanctions is so heavy. In fact, if Lebanon breach the agreements, or at least fails in disarming Hezbollah, it's clearly mentioned inside the U.S. proposal that there will be, in fact, economic sanctions and also a freeze, let's say, to the U.S. assistance to the Lebanese armed forces. So this is, in fact, it's a huge point, because if you want, the Lebanese armed forces today is in need, really, at least at the internal level, it's in need for such support from the U.S. government. In addition, as you mentioned it, sanctions, in fact, it could maybe cover, in fact, the economic, let's say, sanctions could cover, or at least it could destroy, if you want, what we still have from the Lebanese economy as a structure, as a structure related to the financial system, to the economic system. I mean, it will destroy everything. So I don't think that we are capable of supporting such sanctions. Now, in the opposite side, as you said, they promised it that in case of you succeeded in disarming Hezbollah by the end of 2025, you will have, in fact, such something like an economic conference to support the reconstruction of Lebanon, and also will do some pressures on our allies to offer these helps at this level. Also, they already recently offered the Lebanese armed forces an amount of something like $14.2 million. But of course, these, as Tom Barak already said in an interview with the CNBC English, he said that we are not gonna, in fact, support the Lebanese army forces to make war with Israel, but in fact to have the authority inside Lebanon, which means that this amount is really, in fact, to have the sole authority for the Lebanese government on the whole Lebanese territory. So
Dr. Jassem, if I may stop you for just a second. Given the rising tension and the escalation and the potential conflagration that you alluded to, and you're a professor of economics, and your finger is on the pulse of the economy of Lebanon, to what extent this prolonged tension phase is affecting the economy, the investors, creating some sort of risk for the country, not to mention the rising national debt?
Exactly. In fact, before anything, we know that already that we are in an economic situation that it is extremely dire. We know that, in fact, we are in a crisis that has been described by the World Bank as the worst economic collapse since 150 years. So we know that we have a devaluation at the level of our currency. It's something like 66 times. Also, we know that we have some difficulties related to the GDP, to the financial system. We have a problem with the deposits in the commercial banks. More than 80%, they are in fact living under the line of poverty, according to the ESCWA here in Lebanon. So we know that in fact any escalation at this level, it will make the situation worsen more than anything else. So in my opinion, at the let's say at the security level, we know that our Lebanese armed forces, as well as the other forces, they are under equipped. So they need really something support from, I don't know, maybe from the international community, from the US, from other countries, really to be able at least to impose the law here in Lebanon. So it's not so simple as we have. In addition to that, we know that salaries will not help the soldiers, in fact, to do their tasks correctly. So that's why I do believe that really we need to ensure that there is a good implementation of the disarmament with the agreement of Hezbollah at this level.
This bleak picture that you are painting, and we hear anecdotal stories about soldiers, not even soldiers, even high-ranking officers. They don't have enough money in order to take cabs or cars to go to work. So, and the national debt is rising. If it wasn't for the expats, Lebanese living abroad in Europe and the United States, sending on a monthly basis money to their families, how will Lebanon cope? And as like I said, you're a professor of economics. How do you see the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
I think that in fact it's so complicated. It's so complicated, in my opinion. Any let's say any complication related to the implementation of the disarmament of Hezbollah will be completely, in fact, will impact completely the life of all the citizens here in Lebanon. In my opinion, there is a need for a courage from the Hezbollah side, at least, to avoid Lebanon any further complication.
Exactly. What do you want them to do? What do you want the party to do? As you refer to it in Lebanon, Hezbollah party, you call them the party. What do you want them to do? You want them to disarm? You want them to dissociate themselves from Iran? Or do you want them to be under the umbrella of the national army, under the government, and coordinate a national strategy?
All what I know, I'm not in fact a military expert to propose something at this level. My expertise is related more to economics. But at least I do believe that there is a solution, should be found somewhere, to ensure that really we will not have to face either internally each other, or from the other side to have to face the Israeli military apparatus.
I think the first is impossible. I think the first impossible, and that is confrontation between the Lebanese army and Hezbollah, simply because the president, Joseph Aoun, as well, Nawaf Salama, they said it categorically. Even if Hezbollah does not disarm, we are not going to go to war with our countrymen. But when it comes to Israel, it is a quiet possibility, bearing in mind that there is increased discussion about a second phase, a second attack against Iran. And if that is to happen, perhaps in the first phase, in the first war, Hezbollah stayed out of the war. But with the second one coming, God knows when, at the end of the year or early next year, Hezbollah might be involved in this war.
I do believe that, in fact, maybe the weight it's more that Israel will aggress Lebanon more than, in fact, having something internal, because nobody here in Lebanon needs or wants such confrontation. That's why I told you there is some, at least, wise men at the let's say at the head of the Hezbollah party. So I think that at a certain level, they should be encouraged to take the decision, in fact, to be under the umbrella of the Lebanese government. Otherwise, I mean, we are in front of somebody who has not, in fact, who doesn't have at all any heart related. We saw what they did in Gaza. We saw what they did in many regions. So I think that our interest is to avoid such thing, in fact, or give them such arguments to attack Lebanon. Lebanon will not support, at least at the economic level. I don't think that we are capable of supporting such thing.
Let's look forward. Let's look to May 2026, when the elections will be held. In your opinion, will it change the climate? Will it change the balance of forces, whether in parliament or even on a street level? How will Lebanon be affected by this election?
This is a good question. I do believe that, of course, there is a confrontation, at the political level between the Lebanese here, between the Lebanese parties. From a side, people that they want, in fact, the expatriates to vote for all the MPs, and from the other side, you have the other side, Hezbollah and its allies, that they don't want to change anything at this level. Why? Because if you want, there is a fear of a potential change resulting from this election. But here we have, in fact, a problem. The problem is related to the disarmament. Now, how you can do elections, in fact, in case of Israeli aggression to Lebanon? I mean, it's impossible. So I do believe that there is a serious probability that we will delay, in fact, the 2026 elections. I do believe that. And this it comes from the military side or the security side, because unfortunately, if by the end of 2025 we are not we didn't abide by the U.S. conditions, it means very simply that Israel will have the green light to do what it wants in Lebanon, and this will be catastrophic for us. But in my opinion, the diaspora votes will be, in fact, crucial, because there is a hope, if you want, to change at least a little bit the anti-establishment that we have here in Lebanon. We have the same parties, the same people, the same faces since more than 40 years. So maybe it's time to change, and I think it's between the hands of the diaspora.
That is a very tall order and very ambitious. We've been seeing these faces for a long time, and the Lebanese keep saying that we hope they will disappear. I don't want to use even more aggressive words than that, but they go back again and re-elect them again and again and again. The number of independents in the Lebanese parliament, just a few. Everybody votes either for his denomination, meaning a ta'ifa, for the party. The political money is playing a major role. But let me just add a small piece of information. In the municipality elections, الانتخابات البلدية, Hezbollah did very, very well. How do you explain that? Is that a function of money? Is that a function of loyalty? Or they had a very clever message?
No, in fact, we can explain this maybe simply because at that time, the balance of power on the ground wasn't like right now. So maybe now we could have something like different a little bit at that time. I remind you that in fact the war was intensified in September 2024, November 2024. But the elections was something like in May the last year. So I think that the conditions, the context is completely different right now, and maybe we can have something different. They were at that time a hope that maybe the result, if you want, of the confrontation between Israel and Hezbollah would be different from now. But unfortunately, the reality on the ground is completely different. And now we know already that it's a little bit disappointed, in fact, the results. Also, do not forget, Mr. Jassem, that we have a lot, in fact, of human losses during this aggression, the Israeli aggression. And also we have a lot of losses related to the infrastructure, to the economy.
As late as last week, there was a massive bombing.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people, they got that. But let me go back to your forte, to your expertise, and that is the economics. Explain to me and explain to the Lebanese, perhaps watching this show, how will the state, how will Lebanon refinance its national debt, given the conditions placed by the United States and perhaps the signals it will send to the creditors to say, stay away from Lebanon?
In fact, we are in fact in a dilemma. Now, you know that the main reason behind the collapse in Lebanon, economic collapse, is the corruption. And this corruption, in fact, started at the public level. And of course, we have it also in the private sector. And together with their mutual, let's say, work, they collapsed the system completely. I do believe that, in fact, today we have in front of us the IMF, who wants really to drop very simply the deposits, which in fact financed during years and years, to not say decades, the public debts. According to a report from the Merrill Lynch in November 2019, 85% of the public debt, which was something like 92 billion of dollars, was completely financed internally, and mainly by the deposits of the Lebanese depositors and other let's say depositors. I do believe that really at this level, the IMF wants really completely to drop the public debts, except for the Eurobonds and what the IMF is going, in fact, to give to the Lebanese government. But this is, in fact, is unfair, because depositors didn't do anything wrong at this level. They were convinced that the Lebanese banking system is the best at the regional level, and even many of our banks were cited in international magazines as the best banks around the world. Now, what's wrong? What they did? I mean, if there is something which is illegal against, for example, the law 44/2015, yeah, I agree completely. You can cut this deposit, but in general, why you wanna remove this? And now, the IMF is pushing the government, in fact, to drop completely its debts to the banking sector, and this is very bad. So the IMF, in its mind, is pushing in the side that the Lebanese government should hold only the Eurobonds, around $33 billion. In addition, to something like maybe 2, 3, 4 billion dollars as a bilateral,
Dr.
let's say,
Jassem,
debts.
when you're
And
explaining this very complex subject, not many Lebanese understand that. They say Dr. Jassem is a very bright guy. He professor of economics. He is explaining the IMF and the national debt and all that. But we, the depositors, we cannot access our money. At one stage, we were allowed only something like $400 per month. How can we live on $400 per month? And that system continues. And since you mentioned corruption, need I remind our viewers about the Director General of the Lebanese Central Bank was involved in a massive corruption scandal?
Let me tell you, without accountability, there is no possibility, in fact, of solving the Lebanese problem.
And that is a difficult order. That is a very difficult order in Lebanon. Given what you just said, corruption is endemic.
Maybe with a, let's say, support or push from the international community, maybe we can reach such thing. Let me tell you just one thing related to the depositors. They didn't do anything wrong. They have, according to our constitutions, and it's in the preamble of the constitution, it's in fact sacred, the private property. So the government, even using a law voted in the parliament, it does not have the right to really cut their deposits. Now, you have many solutions related to this, many solutions without cuts to the deposits. It's just, in fact, a question of responsibility. Maybe we are afraid at the, let's say, political level inside Lebanon, that maybe if we accept, if we recognize the debts to the financial system, to the banking system, in this case, maybe we will be accountable in front of the justice for what we did as crimes. Because, it's $92 billion before the crisis in 2019. Where did you spend this money? Just explain to the Lebanese population, to the depositors. Maybe they will accept the haircut on their deposits, but at least explain where did you spend this money. In my opinion, also it may contain something like a fear from this side.
Let me volunteer an answer, and correct me if I am wrong. Maybe I am wrong. That money is parked in Swiss Geneva banks. Is it possible?
I will not confirm or infer.
You will not go there. You will not go there.
It's a little bit critical, in fact, speaking about this subject, because we need what we need really in Lebanon, and this is what we call, if you want, the rule of law. It's what we need is an independent justice, an independent judicial system. And this independent judicial system is based on the three main, let's say, foundations. The first one is that judges nominate themselves by themselves, without any power of the political, let's say, party. And then the second one, it's they nominate or their assistants, because it's what we call the administrative corps. And the third one, they should have a financial independency. They should not be at the mercy of the political class to help them, in fact, getting their money at the end of the month. So I do believe that without these three foundations, we'll not have an independent judicial apparatus, and by consequences, they will not be able to take, let's say, courage decisions related to the arrestation of somebody who committed crimes against the public money.
Let me switch back to the subject that we started with, and that is the U.S. envoy Tom Barak to Lebanon. On a lighter mode, what did you think the way he spoke to and dealt with journalists when he was in Beirut, and the bad language, the animalistic behavior? I mean, that does not go well about at least the U.S. reputation sending such diplomats.
Exactly. It's in fact it's regrettable that we had such declaration, even in my opinion, or at least as I heard that Barak himself, in fact, he publicly acknowledged that this language was inappropriate. I'm mentioning what he said. So he said also that if I remember, that the media was doing their job, and he should have been more generous with his time and be more tolerant.
He has a thin skin. When you are in politics, or when you are in high-stake politics like it's in Lebanon, you cannot afford to lose your temper or lose your tongue.
Exactly. And I do believe, Mr. Jassem, that he did a mistake, and this is a recognition of that. Maybe he allowed himself to do such thing because he have some Lebanese origins, so maybe he allowed himself to speak such thing. But in my opinion, yeah, as you said, it's a black points for the U.S. administration and diplomacy.
Final question, perhaps it sounds easy, but to me it's the most difficult question. I would like you to look into your crystal ball and tell me, and tell the Lebanese and the Arabs watching this show, what does the future hold for Lebanon? And before you answer, people, they used to think about Lebanon as the Swiss of the Middle East. People in the 50s and the 60s and until the 75 civil war, they were dreaming, they were saving their money to go every summer to Lebanon to enjoy the climate, the food, and the Lebanese hospitality. Look into the crystal ball and tell me, what does the future hold for this beloved country?
First of all, I don't have a crystal ball, but I have my numbers that I may, in fact, work with, at least working with probabilities to understand a little bit what the future may hold for us. In my opinion, we are in really critical crossroads, in my opinion. And we have, let's say, three things, in fact, to satisfy. The first one, it's not my opinion, it's the analysis that resulting from what we see around us. The first, the international community will not allow any kind of failure at the disarmament level. So as Tom Barak said this, if we don't do this, Israel will do it. Unfortunately, they have, let's say, a criminal way of doing this. So personally, I prefer, in fact, doing that the Lebanese way. The second, let's say, challenge at this level, it's related to the change in the political class. If the 2026 elections didn't succeed in changing the political class, it means very simply that you will not reach the third condition, which is the reforms related to the economy, the public sector, the judicial apparatus, and also the political side. So that's why I think that we are living because we hope all the time. In fact, we hope that the future will be better for us. And I think that maybe the probability of the bad side, it's higher than the probability of the good side. The good scenario has a less probability than the bad scenario. I hope that at this level I'm wrong, and I hope that we will have some wise responsible in this republic, at least to take the
let us hope so.
that are adequate that they are adequate with the current situation.
Let us hope so. Fingers crossed. On that hopeful note, thank you very much, Dr. Jassem Ajaka,
Thank
Professor
you.
of Economics at
The
the
pleasure
Lebanese
is mine.
University.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have reached
Thanks
the
for
end of this show. Join me tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Good night.